Welcome everyone to Vortex Second Dada, a renegade reading hosted by the 87 Press. My name's Azad Hashim Sharma. I'm the director of the 87 and your host for the evening in our head editor Kashif's stead, because Kashif is reading for you this evening. So to those of you who are with us for the first time, and to those of you returning to the 87, I'd like to wish you all a very warm welcome. We've got 8 really great poets to read for you as a kind of Christmas gift from all of us. I'd like to just take a brief moment of your time, because this evening is quite auspicious for us. We're really here to gather to celebrate 2 years of the 87 at the end of what can only be described as a monumentally difficult year for the world. But in the last 2 years, we've published 14 books, hosted something like 17 or 18 events, commissioned 28 artists for publication as part of our online digital poetics series, and we've distributed thousands of books. These achievements would not have been possible without your support at events like this, and for that, and on behalf of the 87, we'd like to express our infinite gratitude. But tonight is something a bit more than a celebration for us. Following 2 rejections by the Arts Council for quite large project grants, we've decided to launch a crowdfund, which our tech team are going to post a link to in the chat. We're looking to raise money to help produce 8 books, host 10 events, which will see us pay 4 poets per event, as well as commission 12 artists for our digital poetic series. In total, 80 artists will benefit from this, 2 of whom are reading tonight. And yeah, so, you know, at this juncture, we really would value your support, either by sharing or donating or a combination of the 2. Anyway, without further ado, first poet of the 8 is Mandeep Johal. Mandeep Johal practiced as a human rights solicitor, focusing on women's rights. She went on to establish Who Do You Think I Am?, a campaign organization centered on changing social attitudes on issues affecting women and girls. Mandeep recently completed her MA in creative writing at the University of Nottingham. Her dissertation explored the topic of feminist poetics, with a particular consideration of patriarchal influence on language and the possibility of an alternative space to think about women's experience. Please join me in welcoming Mandeep.
Thank you. Saddle solstice lattice, I the yit, bring it, above it, high above the yellow brick plats, Ishara, Harasi, Sasa Samu, Chiru, Tong, Sean mooched upon supping groan, the amber flames scalloping bud open, fire shot eraser, whole pencil case, sharpened spoons, flaxseed cold pressed against her cheek, up holding the supple, dusty, clean, skittled, bottled, feared, jerked, the matted moonbeam rocketing in her canned juice, Sasa moaning, her, she holding the yit in the cup of almonds, white cup handling the grief, splot, splot, the tinkering in her high, saddle solstice lattice, she born in the amber flames, the coldest winter traveller, the brightest sunrise heat, washing her hood, open, clossing, hinge. Plu Mareth, the words whispered to her then. Now, the yellow brick plats sponging the poorest grain. Ah, the sea cold holding the yit high above the yellow brick plats, the rain sploshing in her pocket, the splintering eyes there on the grit burned out fish, poking at her bare legs, she running at the cold. Ah, staining the meaning away, the hot I run, the tap green swatches of broken lead, heavy buttery kind, soft shell goat's hair stuck in the soft flour tortilla wrap, rolling over the rocky sand pool, lettuce slugs at my feet, nibbling, biting the hard rock, wash the cold ice. I, the glass calling to the blue cornflowers budding at her feet, the snarling buttercups gliding in her throat, hiding into the rhubarb infused cotton buds, clearing her eyes, she could swallow the cold-throated daisies, rooted in the stomach, roots, shoots, growing boundless in her stomach, the lentil red falling in between toes. I, she, couldn't breathe, the daisies rooting the lettuce slugs, sludges over the cold ice, gliding over the gnarling buttercup, stems pulled over the faint rose bush, collaging green flies. The brightest sore throat, hurting her fingers and toes, field clicking away, the green flies, buttercups, gnarling, I, hearing the song of grapefruit, citrus dreams, holding onto the juice. Ah, plu, plu, sa, moaning, saddle, solstice lattice, holding the yit. The amber flame stilting the burn, I, budding, heat, the plume mareth, calling her, she, holding to the orange hole, hot flames, the waking up moaning, the flashes of apricot, small, rounded stones, sweet, there, stretching fingers, beckoning her out of the flames to the heart-beaten air, the dry cactus spindling the pebble sand, she spying the yearning, soft, blanketed mother, her mother, there, she to be born, sing plu, the salt windmill spinning, she there in the grain of salt, white, coursed, shelled, held, duck feather plucked, she there to be born, sing plu, the amber flames, hot, burnt, eggplant smoke, stinging her eyes, the plume mareth, calling her, plu, I, I, I am the nettle territory of the cluster. I am the nettle, green, jagged, edge stemmed high above the ground, gaping towards the trees. I am I am I am a nettle. Sasa moving high above the dropping leaves. I, saddle, solstice lattice, the daughter of the moon, rising, flickering, split, flat, a ring, the plu, the splat, giving the she, her, to giving the her, he, to Sir calling, knees, the dark circular shaped plum near the stone, the giving of the purple white syrup, no colour, no sweet sugar sticking, sir, the root of mouth clamping the pot of pencils, red sharpened flashes, the sir, the plu, mareth, the brightest sore throat, turtle swamped, deep water blue, red pulsing in bottle of vinegared bamboo shoot, softly whole, rounded, marked fine lines, sharp blue, smudging the smoked sky eclipsed in red wool, the bleed, darkest of the brightest. I am the nettle, bleeding the pine cone, dug from the wooden drumstick, the honey sting, unearthing rain-filled socks, threaded stitch, a foggy zip, molting mush, caramel lace, haberdashery, I pulling at cotton-threaded, radded ruches, crabs, swaying towards flying buttons, passing processions, Izara, Harasi, holding out the plu there in the Mureth growing high above the yellow brick flats, the Mureth, the brightest blue droplets, branched, held, scrunched plu, the Mureth, brightest blue droplets growing high above the yellow brick flats, butterscotch scent, sidestep sea, blue brightest droplets pushing the bleed, snowflakes landing, particles fluttering, I am rhubarb stewed, fished, boxed at your door, sky dropped, popcorn popped, I cry, bodiless, handleless, mosh, ing, steaming hues, cotton, hen, egg, mottled, freckled, ribboned, I cry, unsteady, pip-pop stewed, seeping into your porous grain, yellow turmeric milk, stained, flip-flop, sunbeam, sand grain, salty lemonade glass, bubbled, blurred, beckoning, stick, stock, eye, pulling, vomited pieces, wondering, bump, liquid feed, deck chair, misted, am I, existent particles, lumpless, gravy, sticking, foresting, wild grass, matching sunburnt eyes, closed, patched before, shadowless cactus plant, stinging fly net covered movement, soft eggshell, pushed, painting, chamomile lotion, prepared, prep, popped, footloose veranda, hammocked, fish shore, less sea, clapped sea, shell, echo, booming, heavy tremors, caved hollow in your orchid potted sweet, orange blossom, slurping woodlouse, grapple, tiptoe, smashing, particles, heavy, loose, light, pollen, hair, sticking, miraculous, monstrous gulp. Daisies swallowed, rhubarb infused, strands standing, octopus ponds, syrup, searching, hiccups, popping, sparkling, soft, oyster land, worshipping fruit jelly, play, desert, landscape, cupped, juice, crown, daisies, drenched, sweet juice, sugar, ah, ah. I am one-eyed cherry stones, listening, sludge, river rock, tidal collected stones, shaped, ghost held, drumming, bamboo, diced, pain, chopped, wok, hot, heat, swirling, charcoal, blossom, heavy light, scented, macaroon cherry, bleeding down your leg, sunlit moon, skunk. Ah, ah. I am soft, pink, martened, yellow, seeping blood, red, yellow, bread, butter, sliced, pooling, cashews, golden clusters, lingering, solid, muck stables, bodiless, moonless, stable door, opening, halfway closure, soft, raspberry jam, peak, slip, slip, down, down, up, up, cherry stones, listening, rhubarb, daisies, syrup, stirrup, cold, opening, shove, pancakes, flipped, lemon, sugar dripping, ah, ah. I am wolf-eared, howling, I am yellow, moon bright, quiet, soft, marshland pink, soft, wild daisies growing high up, above yellow brick plats, blue, brightest droplets, plue, scrunched in morath. I push, morath, cold, blue, nose droplets, run, down, amber sea, hot. I am wolf earned, running, yellow, mountain hill, sunset pocketed, cold ice, throated daisies, stem, green, growing, spaceless, cough, pollen swallowed, yellow, sounded, bleed, cries, buried, meth cloth, dust gathered, cough, howl, howling, yellow, moon, light, shining, shadowing, dark light, darkness shining, walking spiders, climbing, sea, water, ah. I am your blackout preserved apple, syrup, horseshoe, condensed milk, marbled, burnt, flamed memories, satin silk, muck stables tethered, river, sea, moon, landing, sun kept, hold your turn shoe, tied lace, open my mouth, pressed fork, seashell turtle swimming deep. I am your blackout leaking ants, puddle deep, abandoned wishbone, fasting starved, Wellington boot, stamped, sealed, caramel, buttered, caterpillar, bitten, apple, halved, sliced, butterfly wings, tissue held, macaroon mother, sandwich cherries, pitted, stoneless stones. Ah. You stopped, coal, bucket, overfed, fire stories, clashed, igloo, heated, sugar pot, marshlands, dark, candlelit shadows, woodstock castles, scrambled paper, fire thrown, constructed air, misty gold, journals, hard bound, magic soot, stewed, indigo cast, cotton socks stretched, straw bales, airless, mice mounted, steel spoons, sticks, path dug deep under precious glass, dung, marinated pot, shelved high, baking apron, untied meat, slam, slabbed, cockroach calling, ah. I am amber flames, water, created sea, lullabies, following ghosts, high, low, hot, cold, flames, budding, heat, plume, morath, calling, holding, heat, orange, whole, hot, flames, waking up, moaning, flashes, apricot, small, rounded stones, sweet, sea, stretching fingers, orange heat, flames, cold sea, breathing, green field space, wild daisies growing, holding, smoke birthing, limbs birthing, fruit, wolf, cubs, slugs, plue, singing, coalless, fuelless, hot, cold, amber flames, ah. I am saddle, solace, lattice, born in amber flames, orange, apricot, smoked fruit, nectar, drip, dropping, warm, hot flannels, held, cold, brushing, sea strokes, my mother, wolf mother, moon mother, singing, plue, a knitting needle love, jump, stitch, warm, creator, plu plu, scrunch held in morass, bright blue droplets high above yellow brick plats. I am, unknown, raven black, brown, sunset feathers, silken, dusty, dialect clawed, webbed, borrowed feet. Sand, heat, beak, seated, unknown sunken tree. Stanfish, starfish, bottled, groaned, wildest morass, born, salty Sandhu, knotted fish, porous, plant sky high, mulled, bushed, berries, buried, unburied, fertile soil, grass, worm ant, sticking stones, bundle, sleep crusher, space, finder, settler, unhinged traveller, greened, moss, ponds, river rock, bird, sea, river stones, living shadows, ghost, host, catch up, self, salter, ceiling, peeling, self, notice, flapping, wind, alert, chasing, loose, eggs crowned, house, burial, known, unknown, soft, hold, solid truth, rolling green, hill, daisy chains, gathering sun, strolling sea, holding tree, branches, autumn leaves, crunch, tangles, leash, collision, marina, eat, peck, sit, watch, sing, My wings fly high above yellow brick plats. In, out, yellow bricks. My wings there, spacing around yellow brick plats, holding dusty, clenched, stopwatch, stopped, known, unknown, time, sweeper, seep, nettle, wolf, moon, raven. I am in between, time, stopped, high rise, blue sky, mud-lived, nettle, crabless, crab, pushing, soft, caterpillar, seed, fairy wings. I with shipwrecked hair, tucked, scrunched paper cup, light singing solid heart, apple, cinnamon, lush green field, memory knotted, flowing seed, I with shipwrecked paper cup hair, lush, scrunched, flowing, knotted, cinnamon, light, apple, sinking, tucked, field, solid, heart, seed, saddle, solstice, lattice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mandeep. That was an absolute fiery and unforgettable opener. Next up is a poet we are hoping to publish in 2021, provided that we are able to meet our crowdfund goals. A link for the crowdfund will be circulating in the chat, and I urge you and request of you to please look at it if you have not already. Karen Sandhu is that poet that we were hoping to publish next year, who is a poet and artist. Her poems are forthcoming in Women's Visual Poetry Anthology from Tim Glassett Editions, and previously published in the following magazines and anthologies: Magma 2020, Writing Utopia, Hesterglock Press 2020, Nemesis, HVTN Press 2019, Paratext 2019. Her work has been commissioned by the Sir Denis Mahon Foundation, and she has collaborated with the Institute of Contemporary Arts, Flat Time House, and Camden's People Theatre, Arnolfini in Bristol, and Galerie Éric Dupont in Paris. Karen's collection entitled Young Girls, a response to the artist Amrita Shergill, will be published by the 87 in 2021. Please take it away, Karen.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I will not be performing tonight. Instead, the archivist from the irritating archive will be here to take my place. She'll be delivering a presentation. This performance is a performance of the text and materials currently in the Irritating Archive. The archive was founded in 2016 by an archivist, me, who uncovered a fragmented collection of irritating artifacts and documents dating back to 2006. I am the archivist. First slide, please. The Irritating Archive houses this eclectic collection, some of which has been painstakingly restored and photographically documented. The archive is open to visitors by appointment only, and particularly welcomes poets, artists, researchers with an avid interest in irritating words and objects. Next slide, please. For health and safety, the archive requests that all visitors wear closed-toe shoes, long trousers or skirts which fully cover the legs, and the gloves and apron provided upon arrival. Long hair is to be confined and loose jewellery secured. It is vital that all visitors to the archive wash their hands thoroughly. Before entering and exiting, it is important for visitors to note that they enter at their own risk. Next slide, please. Welcome to the Irritating Archive. In the event of an emergency, leave by the nearest exit. No coats and bags, permanent ink, no. Post-it notices, no electronic device, no entry with food, no or gum. Drink, no, run, no ning. No noise, smoke, no oak. Or no conversation, no film, no photo handling, no touch. No touch, but shoes closed, yes. Yes, hair, black, rubber bands, yes, that. Tightly, yes, yes. Shoes closed, toe, yes. Long trousers, only, yes. Full length skirts, yes, oh. If only all legs are covered, yes, and arms, hand covered, yes, and gloves provide, yes, apron on, and yes, or tie tightly, yes, tight across back, and all that is loose is yes, no touch. Hand, no, to be washed, yes, thorough, no, in the yes, wash rooms, before, yes, entering, no, exiting, no, ink, archive, yes. Welcome to the Irritating Archive. In the event of an emergency, leave by the nearest exit. Next slide, please. So another problematic aspect of defining irritation is a semantic pairing, and with both stronger and milder negative states, as seen in the Cambridge Dictionary. The feeling of being angry or annoyed. These states have been categorized as negative because they generally reflect an uncomfortable or unpleasant state as experienced by an individual. Irritation, anger, and annoyance are semantically connected as each word frequently appears in the definition of the other. Consequently, this grouping is of particular interest in our archive, which focuses on the concept of irritating artistic and poetic practices. Irritation and its related states, anger and annoyance, will need to be considered in order to define our use of the term irritation. Therefore, it's necessary to examine the word alongside its related semantics. For the purposes of our archive, it's important to begin with the subtle distinctions between each of the three states. Just keep it on this slide, please. Anger is defined by both the OED and the Cambridge Dictionary as a strong feeling. It has been coupled with other vehement states such as distress and suffering, as well as the synonyms wrath, rage, fury. Anger compared to irritation is therefore more extreme than irritation's arguably milder state. It's useful to visualize these two negative states on a semantic scale, as shown in figure 1. Here, you'll see anger residing at the high intensity end of the scale, antithetical to irritation at the lower and milder end. The use of anger in the definition of irritation can consequently be deemed as incongruous, associated due to its extremity, or, whereas annoyance, I think, is a suggested synonym in the Cambridge Dictionary, is more likely to join irritation at the milder end of the semantic scale. The denotations of irritate and annoy do overlap, though, as to annoy is also to irk and to cause discomfort. It's described as a ruffled feeling and the moment when one is disturbed by what one dislikes. This concept of ruffling and disturbing can be likened to the state of irritation. Annoyance also joins other synonyms of irritation in the OED, such as provoke, incite, rouse, aggravate, heighten, vex, bother, gall, irk, pique, displease, goad. Similar to annoyance, which has been positioned at the low end of the semantic field, and anger, which has been positioned at the high end, these synonyms of irritation can also undergo close semantic scrutiny and be plotted on the semantic scale. This would involve referring to multiple dictionary definitions and looking for commonality to justify the positioning of each of the scale. Each on the scale. Another factor which adds to the challenge of determining their position on the semantic scale is that each of these synonyms includes irritation itself, comprised of their own scale of varying degrees ranging from slight to extreme, as represented in figure 2. For example, an individual may experience slight irritation or be in a state of extreme irritation. Whether irritation is experienced slightly or extremely will be determined by either the external conditions responsible for triggering the irritation or an individual's internal processing of this irritation. And enough of that. So now to our collection, to the items in our collection. Let me introduce them to you and tell you a little bit more about them. Now can we have the next slide, please? Item 1, curious hand. Tingle. Fur clings to a chandelier in this irksome house, the house of coarse guard hair, insulating incoherence. A spiral staircase of fierce, flesh-piercing spikes, attracting dirt, gossip. From these historical walls and the hair leaks from the roof nihilistically in anger and self-pity. Domestic daylight is blocked. There is a coat on the back of a chair at the foot of the stairs, waiting underneath the sprouting chandelier. This coat is plush and thick and oozes a peculiar light of wallowing fears. Outside, an irrational, destructive storm broods, and inside a fire is sparked. Stupendously grand, that roof which leaks historically and now. Long hairs and short hairs glisten on a devastatingly occasional rug. It lines the human walls of the downstairs bunker, imploding occasionally with fright. Incoherent moral statements collapse into a parlour of whiskers. A brazen invitation into the house of meowing hair rages forwards. New growth sprouts. Next slide, please. Item 4, hide and seek. Scab. A bloody mess of fake blood and stiff upper lips smeared. A young homegrown jurisdiction reaching its long arms, moving sideways towards corporeal metaphors, feeling it in the spleen, replaced by kernels of fire. The fire, the palpable zeal, the zeal. This zeal is needed to energize the indigenous and to toast cold feet. Feet like ice paste, uprising and marching in desperation. Or maybe that's despair, itching away at the heart. Flick, burn, this catalyst extinction, salty like this, itchy. itchy heel which knee-jerk reacts in an automatic city of cracked bamboo, energized by the spread of reflexes. Moving sideways helps the itch, marching up the leg. Next slide, please. Item 7, tying the knot. Prickly. You are confused about the meaning of all this. Logging on online and into Zoom in the early afternoon on a windy day, forbidden, lethal. Barefoot with sticks and ice cream in between your knees, hives of hard-pointed bodies protrude on the green ahead, failing frisbees cough and retch among the blue grass, a red burn across the sky, blistered, cracking into a hazy tiredness. Your rowing boat and swollen lip, unutterable like sneezing willows, forbidden, lethal, blood-red eyes watch the white beams crying and inhaling. The cedar, lung scratch, your feet in the long grass blooms, celery, lethargic on the lawn, clouds itch above you. You dream of almonds, apricots, you think of all the cherries, the rash of their skin welts, apples. Next slide, please. Item 10, found and forgotten. Affect. Next slide, please. Item 12, cluster of words. Perturb. The fragility of technology is like an egg. In a few minutes, this duck egg will have glitched away beyond scripts of impatient hurry. Hurry to be hatched in a few hours of speed and nausea against a backdrop of chicken eggs. On the horizon, connections have failed into runny yellow centres. Underground advertisements, please. Save the goose eggs for Christmas. Time is not being gained, but rather lost. And all noses are pressed. And your noses are pushed like a rash on doors of disintegration. This device has a migraine. The diagnosis is bleak. Please end the presentation for me. And now, our time together has come to a close, and I, the archivist, and you, my visitors, must return to the outside of all of this, out of here. Return, turn around and into there. Walk, will you please, in that direction, straight ahead. Return, turn. Now do be careful and watch your step. Maybe I will see you here again, soon perhaps. Apron and gloves in the box there. Yes, that one there, the one underneath the chandelier. I have the ribbon, don't worry about that. A turn soon, a turn too soon to return to the exit. Exit, archive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Just mesmerizing, that kind of performance, and also just massive kudos for being able to transfer the energy through the screen on Zoom. I think we've seen you give something very, very similar, which is on our YouTube at the 87. But it was nice to see it in a different space. We are now going back to the beginning. 2 years ago, Kashif and I had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, but we did know one thing, which is that we were very committed to publishing this book by Calliope Michail, which is called Along Mosaic Roads and is available from our online store. Calliope Michail is a London-based poet and translator from Athens, Greece. She's the author of Along Mosaic Roads, 2018, the 87 Press. A leaflet of watercolour erasure poetry. The Nature of the Physical World Word was printed in 2019 by Penteract Press, with more poems from the project included in the press's Science Poems anthology. Other work has appeared in Snow Lit Review, Data Bleed, Paminar Press, The Hive, that's our digital poetics platform, and more. She completed her MA in Critical Methodologies at King's College London, and is currently poetry editor at the online literary magazine Beauvoir. Please take it away, Callie.
Thank you so much. It's great to be reading at an 87 Press event again. Yeah, I was thinking I would start off with the poem that was published very kindly on the Digital Poetics series on the Hive, Solastalgia. Just to access it. All right. Solastalgia has two epigraphs, and it's basically based on the myth of Erysichthon, who basically angered the gods and the goddess Demeter, and she cursed him, and there's some cannibalism going on. So Solastalgia. Wretched man, as much as he ate, so much did he desire again. Callimachus, hymn number 6 to Demeter. At length, when Erysichthon had eaten up all his wealth, he was left with only his daughter. Ovid's Metamorphosis, book, it's number 5, 6, 7, 8. He stands in a raised jungle, stumps for legs and puckered lips of rubber preaching, sensuous appetites, a master of cattle herds to feed his affluenza, reckless trust, a malaise of neologisms, cornucopian futurist, fracking the bones of the dead. The gods shall provide if it be their will. As the skeletal god of hunger has made its home deep within the bowels of Homo consumericus, and if not, with his newly fashioned proboscis, he will suck the ocean floors dry of sand, pulverize every buried stone, and suck until there's nothing more to take. He won't even know he's gnawing away at his own flesh until there's nothing left. I stay up into the early hours, my eyes clicking on themselves. The garbage truck grumbles outside my window, churning with rejection. The house yawns and stretches, floorboards, pipes, and boiler protesting the new day. Cassiterite, wolframite, coltan, diamonds and gold ore, for tin, for tungsten, for tantalum, for the wolves of abstraction that feed and eat a merry-go-round you can't dismount, all and more, some more than others. Tabs, 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 burn like the Olympic flame I hoard with a ravenous desire, anxiety, so many I can't make out the little pictures at the edge, they all begin to blend, I can't keep track, what's what, who's who, what's where, and why, I need it all. Even if it means I cannot use all. How else can I hold all this information at my fingertips? How can I hold all this information in my brain, tips into obsolescence, and slips through like water? No ocean's big enough to quench. This flame burns out, exit window, and start again. A North American rat snake once tried to consume itself and died the second time around. 3 concentric coils, Hecate's impeccable coiffure. Place your refusal, steaming at the crossroads. I stay up until the early hours, my eyes clicking on themselves, drowning fish, oxymoronic, don't you think, perishing in the abundance of the oxygen they need, smacking hopeless with their big lips and frantic flapping slits. Recipe for miner's chowder. 1% copper, 99% arsenic, lead, and mercury. Sprinkle generously on your Alaskan crab, butter clams, cockles, and blue mussels, best enjoyed by the familiar glow of your latest screen. And what of Mistra, contorting into shapes, practicing autothesia, phagia, all her own, like an insect going through the motions, autophagosome, soma, somata, somatic acceleration, to escape her plight. No NDAs, but good old Poseidon wrote her a check, of a different kind, and she cashed it again and again, only to come flying or trotting back, reinvention for the complex grinding since father capitalized. Scientists still wonder whether autophagic activity in dying cells is the cause of death, or is actually an attempt to prevent it. But even she, O faithful daughter, could not save the man who ate himself. I stay up until the early hours, my eyes clicking on themselves. I don't know what I'm waiting for, what promises the night pretends to keep, what each sunrise fails to bring, why I'm not content, just counting, counting. The slug leaves a gastronomic trail. Along the fig leaf it demolishes, vein to vein, while you and I stand, blade to blade, trying to lick away the slime and give birth to something we can't call new. I may think, and so may you, but that is not the point. Consciousness, the tool ensuring we go forth and multiply under reductive viral vice. I think, therefore I am, therefore I dominate. No one speaks in ancient tongues, but Nemesis keeps the score. You may think the scattered tipping smeared peanut butter and petroleum, spilled milk in populations, and you would be right, or maybe left. And maybe the serpent ate its tail and cannot tell where or how to begin or bend. Hopes and chthonic knowledge, that familiar itch and burn of living, singing skin beneath, blazed milk eyes, ecdysis, rarely comfortable outside trust, necrotic tissue stretches and sloughs. It writhes and sheds instead. So that was the first poem. And I have just one more, which was written in November this year. It's kind of, I'm calling it, I have no title for it, but I'm calling it Refraction 2020 because it's kind of the Vortex Dada spirit of the event, I guess. Running with that. So Refraction 2020. All hair and the ivy in the garden slouching and sit straight and peel the skin off lips, and how stiff the flesh in time, and who and gathers and why. And I am shedding, 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 and gathering the strays off the carpet, and the streets are empty, and do you smell the burning, and the nimbostratus gloating, and my hair, the shedding, the gathering, and the ivy in the garden, all the weeds, and every month is November. As circadian rhythms lose the beat, and vampiric darkness, and where is the wound? And oh, little brain nocturnal screeching with the foxes and mating with the bats, and good night birdies singing impossible songs, and good night moon, and memory teases catching, and did you clear the cache? And all I eat are cookies, and texts from friends, and poems by strangers, and bacteria, and oh, the viral dinners, and what are you made of? And everything bleeds, and everything contaminates, and little unreliable archives, and the forgetting, and who is forgetting, and everything is sticky, and oh, and politics, and all the farmers, and all the cops, and flat earthers circling Antarctica, and beauty gurus spilling on YouTube, and what is the split, and cry over the milk, and I am dreaming, and my skin is breaking, and out come the languages I do not speak, and twist my tongues and give me something I cannot lose, and losing and loving and synchronized blinks across continents, and dare not think, and who is gaining and what, and I am gathering all my hair and collecting it, and why, and does that give it meaning, and is that a capitalist impulse? And I am shedding, and am I pulling, and fine differences call for brioche, and whom do you love, and a crooked neck, and dig my fingers, and hope, and will the knots to loosen? And be the termites in the garden, and don't want to sit straight or slouched, and don't know what other option there is, and the bed a capsule, and this is it, and the shedding, and my only rituals are my bad habits, and the only poems are lists and lists of what could be poems, and oh to the landlord in utero, and one goofy cumulonimbus chuckles, and the only lists are lists I'll never complete, and what is split, and what is fair, and what is compensation, and what is labor. And strong, said the annual reviews, and lift the trunks, and this is good, they say, and lift them, and delicately, and my nails stain crayon, and how unprofessional the streaks on official documents, and how little the insouciant pleasures, and injury a glowing spring, and I cannot formulate a center and nucleus, and any one thing is never solid, and simultaneous combustion, and I cannot grasp an atom, so leave my palms alone, and sweet air, and where are my metaphors, and the last dewdrop, and a pine needle, and losing, and power, and gathering, and shedding, and gathering the creature in a plastic Ziploc bag. And did we ever really move in? And will we ever? And how? And where can I find? And are you eating well? And can you hear your mouth? And are you drinking water? I hope you're keeping well. And who is anyway? And too much dairy. And my wounds are in places I cannot lick, and a trite and comic elbow party trick, and monuments tower and monumental dam gathers. And oh, the ecstasy of spaces shared and hearts and shuffles, and instead, and leave the heater on. The violins are cold, and are you cold, and are you a reptile? And all the fine lines and hair and medullary rays. And if you see a sheep on its back, give it a hand, please. And there are many a blind ooze, and it's not about continuity. And oh, prisms, and it's all spiders' webs, and I cannot tend the garden and head, and sand my skin, and drink and eat, and perhaps that is, and everything bleeds, and all so sticky, aglow. Thank you.
Woo, thank you so much, Callie. Oh, that was really great, and it's so nice to come full circle and welcome you back to the 87 each and every time. Don't forget to buy Calliope's book from us, Along Mosaic Roads. I think it's still on sale for like £4. That's www.the87press.com/shop. Next up, before we take a little break, Bhanu Kapil is an artist by fellow at Churchill College and the author of 6 full-length collections. Most recently, Ban on Bonlieu, Nightboat Books, and How to Wash a Heart, Pavilion Poetry. Gives me great pleasure to welcome Bhanu.
Okay. Partition. One day per room, it's raining. My mother's mother put a hand over my mother's mouth, but my mother saw, peeking between the slats of the cart, row after row of women tied to the border trees. Their stomachs were cut out, said my mother. This story, which really wasn't a story, but an image, was repeated to me at many bedtimes of my own childhood. Sometimes I think it was not an image at all, but a way of conveying information. This is something that happens in the second room, in the city that the room belongs to, and it functions, the information, as a grave. 12:20 on the third day, notes from the glass coffin, schizophrene, because it's psychotic not to know where you are in a national space. Imaginal technology for the map of the day is timed to open. In this way, the psychiatrist can work economically with 3 kinds of black space at once. An economy is a system of apparently willing but actually involuntary exchanges. A family, for example, is really a shopfront, a glass plate open to the street. Passers-by might mistake it for a boucherie, splashed as the customers/butcher are, with blood. Transactions frozen in place beneath a chandelier of the good knives. A map of 3 black days, and beneath it, in pencil, a sentence. The date and the time, 12:20 on the third day. It is a London suburb as seen from above and recorded with dyes, an indigo house leaking its colour into the grid. Like a cloud, the house is visibly blue, pinpointed on the grey image, which is cross-sectional, warping, and pocked with industry. This tissue overlays a police map tracking calls to domestic disturbances in a 3-mile radius of the Southall Broadway. In turn, a local government map of the London Borough of Ealing of the ethnic origin of a borough-wide population overlays a social services map in which different kinds of abuses are recorded as having happened in particular homes. The Blue House has made a cell-like choice to distinguish itself from the other cells, a transformative property that has no value ever in the time it happens in, though it gives the map hard value. 12:20 on the third day, and I'm eating in the node deep in the pock of the grid. Here is the food I was given, and here are my teeth, moonlit despite the hour. A speck of violet light behind the ear. Since childhood, attenuation. It is a soft craziness, and she's not sure why it happens now. I found her once in the Queensbury Gardens, down on all fours in a bed of tulips and crocuses, observing the light coming through a scarlet membrane of a petal. I was walking to school after coming home for lunch, and I saw her, an Asian woman of some kind, murmuring. We lived at that time in a white neighborhood, but sometimes you encountered them, flecks and drifts of friable matter. He dragged her down the stairs by her hair to the room where we were eating. I cannot make the map of healing, and so this is the map of what happened in a particular country on a particular day. Deep in the map, I put my fork down and feel my jaw and teeth swell up. This is blood pressure, a flow reversing itself, but I can't quite manage it. The information, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., you pig, you kid. I keep going back to what we ate, what we were fed. It is my way of communicating with you, the other children in your houses. Orbit the house as an adult, but right now, the spaces at the back of it and to the side are dense with neighbors. There are perhaps 11 faces pressed to the blood-specked window, banging on the glass with their foreheads. Being white with the delicate skin that accompanies race, they bruise easily. They are looking at the unfolding scene with a boo and a hiss and a "you fucking packy, what you think you're doing? This is England, you bleeding animal." Later, they make a low roar when we, the two of us, back away from the table until our spines are pressed flat against the wallpaper, which is velvet and cream with a bumpy motif of paisley swirls, as per the era. You are like a textured swatch. I am preternaturally still, my fingers stroking the fur of the wall behind my thighs. If you touch it, it's yours, says the butcher to the housewife as she extends her hand towards the ham. In this way, you are the velvet body of a boy or girl, the raised part of the pattern. But this is to individuate a common sorrow in the time extending from August 1947 to the present era, which is already past. Folds generate density on a contour map, but for what? A map is a kind of short-term memory, the genealogy of an historical time versus the chronology of geographical form. No, I need a different way to make this decision. I need a basket of nodes, the red kelp-like bulbs that slide off the map each time I unfold it. Hold it up to the light like a nurse, like a doctor. The anchors that hold the layers of film intact are failing. These are bonds, this is paper. Maybe there's a different way to tell this quick black tale. Maybe I'm not a writer. Hubba, 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 says the doctor to the nurse. I need gloves, and I need them now. It is psychotic to draw a line between two places. It is psychotic to go. It is psychotic to look. psychotic to live in a different country forever, psychotic to lose something forever. The compelling conviction that something has been lost is psychotic. Even the airplane's dotted line on the monitor as it descends to Heathrow is a purely weird ambient energy. It is psychotic to submit to violence in a time of great violence, and yet it is psychotic to leave that home or country, the place where you submitted again and again forever. Indeed, it makes the subsequent involuntary arrival a stressor for psychosis. The schizophrenic's work is to make the house schizophrenic, an illuminated yet blackened construction at the center of a field. All of the lights are on and the curtains are not drawn, exposing the occupants in the rituals of their illnesses. There is the butcher with his hatchet, compulsively chopping the meat. There is the butcher's wife, washing the table, then setting the meat down upon it. There are the butcher's children, sitting down to eat. When the meal is done, they remove their clothing as a family and put it in a bucket to soak. Even this far from the center of the regional metropolis, their nudity comes as a shock. Noon. This is the same day, but later. Minutes scatter, making a pure, unmarked rectangle, like a man-made lake or reservoir that wasn't there 30 years ago, and thus not recorded in the document of place. That is the end.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bhanu. I'm almost speechless after that. That was such a breathtaking reading. Thank you. But we've got 4 this evening left to read. First up is the legend, head editor of the 87 Press, Kashif Sharma-Patel, who is a writer and poet. They work at the interface of sonic, visual, and written cultures with particular reference to queer and racialized experimental work. Kashif has published and performed poetry across a number of platforms, with a full-length collection forthcoming on the 87 Press in 2022. They also write music, art, and literary criticism for Art Forum, The Quietus, AQNB, Poetry London, and more. Please take it away, Kashif.
Thank you, Zid. And I'll just say thank you to Zid for supporting my work for the last couple of years. All of, a lot of this is down to his encouragement. So with that said, I'm going to read from a pamphlet that came out on Earthbound Press. I'm going to read the whole thing, and then I'll put a link in the chat. I think there's still a few copies hanging around. It was written in the summer, and yeah, it was written in the summer. It's called Fragments on Mutability. Harmony is this thing, the imploding moment of my virus-addled brain, the set-down tumbles and fast clap cats of low-rent vestigials, the vestiges of vestibular prosody, the imploding excerpt from poetic time, nation time, not daily grind, an externalized quotidian, deconsecrated, made natural, depathologized, remorphologized as a material account of social relations, relay and mythopoetic duress. Communism amongst the anarchists, blood or go run. Your ideological qualms quake in temporal fixity. Fix your subjectivity. Your rhizomes need tending to. Your undecidability is the trigger for a circlusive reenactment, more readaptation, an iterative process of historical restraint, inverted deployment, restoring your thumb's integrity. We found modernism in the streets and became asphetes, Politics on the record became abolitionist. Joy in the flesh, and we were always gender nonconformists. Somatic dissidence, we centered fission. Formality derives para-ontological prosaics. The audible made agonized, trapped within shell of bonny soothsaying, ripping out scabs of buried repressions, temporal seizures, live time, speech act away, yet voice so often eludes. Spontaneity is this latent thing that gets caught up under your eyelids when you try to sleep. It's this thing that keeps a tick in the back of your throat when you try to keep working hours for work. It's this inertia setting thing that sees through the artifice and you're too tired to think anymore. Fragmented visuality. Desire. Followed the thing behind the guilt. The cognitive train keeps the brain abuzz at night. So gather your arms. Trains are coming, jump off. In the circumspectral penumbra of retaliating Moorishness, the brevity is not for nothing. Fen-like annexation, the red pills are con and the timber rotten through. You wrote in the face of constant subjectivation and your shame slipped off. You worked for celebration and grassy remorse. Your parasomniac episode shedding light on a nostalgia for the present. You picked up fragmented and fought machines. You picked up style knowing the body is a gesture away from sublation. You repeated and repeated, finding solace and ground in the ritual of art making. Hölderlin. Prosodic fault lines, tectonic retaliations, lockdown blues, reverberating negations of synaptic pasts. Repressed edges shown in disbelief and dismal fervor. Protect the statue, the state of things, stay still, a surface of impropriety, disembodied response to thinking, feeling. Repress the freedom drive and temporal depoliticalization and carceral neurotypicality. Alienation as the longue durée sets in and the talking heads reassemble for the death cult policy making, management, border control. Control the border of desire and justice doled out in a stinking 24-hour court, crude and conniving, making rhythm a trap, writerly moments not reduced to archival dust and expertise, generosity and collective subjection, vestibulaires against antagonism, TV schedules, the hardcore continuum, failing at normative genre and trapping deranged sense over the scars of mutilated possibility. Said being determines content, content deranges form, etc. The brown mutability, interchangeability as a creoling of sense. Not enough in prefiguring. Jamalian lightness, a happenstance of harmelo-rhythmo-poetic phrasal globalism. Melismatic interpersonality. Scrolling to dull the mind's eye, wellness as productivity indicator. Calves exuding tetchy anxiety as a somatic response to authority. I don't like it. Mediocrity, being out of time, evading the visual, anti-individual, but feigning Baudelarian excess and vestry. My brain collapses in ludicrous calls to attention and shameful bouts for nurture. We tore ourselves open to remain undisciplined. We were torn up to become disciplined. We evaded the socialist control. We invented the socialist escape. We made projects and disavowed them in juvenile distaste for completion. We wrote CVs and kidded our self-rejections while chasing steady paychecks and community standing, momentary rests. We believed our selfhoods and then remembered it's a crock of capitalist shit. We thought we were disenchanted until we needed the next paycheck. We tried to work it out in art, but that too a petri dish for drudgery and false promises. We took to the street. It was momentous, fragmented, and hard work. We were dysphoric and hated it here. We were guilty and shamed. We wanted ignorance and righteousness. We wanted some fiction to believe in, but it was all too callous and calculated. Behind all that, the fallacy, breaking of fixity being meaning. Instead, provisional justices and positions, gender orientation, and poetic acuities. Cowardice and mediocrity as value theory. personal trouble, life trouble, capitalist time, family, associations, trappings, doing nothing. I want to do nothing, change everything, live adventure, write mediocrely, live better, in close proximity to myself. My time is being eaten up by the forces that be again. Procrastination is being overwhelmed. Robertson. Acephalic, clandestine, sullen slow, substandard servience, mawkishness, struggle towards sex and paintings, peplum, bombast, waxingly, sartorial vocabulary, monadic, locationless, citational status. The knockoff was a document and I was its historiographer. Proprioceptive grammar, gestural etiquette, becoming city grid, Lapellian desires, gnomic and lapidary, insouciant skepticism, clothier purloined out of hot garments, tersely selvages mitered, chrysalis armoire, punctum, rhythm, time, form, passage, abstruse, prudence and contrition, censored relief. Thank you.
Thank you, Kashif. You know what you've got to go and do now is go and buy that chapbook from Earthbound, and watch out for their collection on the 87. Next up, our penultimate reader, sadly, but also gladly, because it's Sophie Seita, who is a writer and artist who often thinks about how text and the act of reading can be embodied and or translated into movement, material, and space. She's performed or exhibited her work at Space, La Mama Galleria, New York City, Printed Matter, New York City, Bold Tendencies, the Arnolfini, JNU, New Delhi, Raven Row, Parasol Unit, Art Night, London, Kunthal, Darmstadt, Germany, Queer Art Projects, and elsewhere. She's the author of, most recently, My Little Enlightenment Plays, Pamela Press, 2020, Provisional Avant-Gardes, Stanford University Press, 2019, and the editor of The Blind Man reprint, Ugly Duckling Press, 2017. In 2020 to 2021, she's one of 9 artists on the Constellations Artist Development Program run by UP Projects and Flat Time House, which is focused on collaboration, experimental pedagogy, community-oriented practice, and public art projects. She's working on a couple of collaborations at the moment, one with the musician Naomi Wu in the form of a speculative gardening society, the other with the performance artist Kate Clayton, about intergenerational dialogue. Please welcome Sophie.
Thank you. And also thanks so much to all the other readers. I absolutely loved every single reading. I was saying earlier to James that I feel that Zoom readings require a different embodiment from me because I can't soak up the energy or the words or other bodies in the same way. But I feel that with this reading, somehow I'm in a nice sort of mesh, or kind of hormonal mesh, which is actually a phrase that in the text that I'm going to read. So I'm reading from my Earthbound chapbook as well, The Gracious Ones, which is a philosophical ballet for women on running machines, where the running machines might be imaginary and unheard or untrodden, without feet or a perpetual mobile, and there will probably be voices also recorded, some wire. I'm fascinated with wire at the moment, different types of wire. So we'll see. And so this is, even though some of the lines might lend themselves to being read consecutively as a kind of dialogue, performers might eventually also take the lines and put them together newly and form monologues. So we'll see how that's going to turn out, but I'm going to read the text as a poetic text or script, as a kind of imagined dialogue at a banquet. And I'm also going to read the stage directions. which are going to be read by some kind of narrator figure. 1. You are always of a piece. One could picture the women running on running machines, sometimes resting, sometimes stretching, sometimes engaged in gymnastics or pure observation. But that may be too literal for so runny an allegory, so physically demanding an undertaking. But we must imagine the leaping ladies at a symposium of their own generous invitations, with an audience of occasionally obtuse but frequently fervent disciples. I am almost another person. Winning is durational. Panache is my credit card. I believe it's fair to say that's a card we both play well. And then you walk into a midnight message probing if you preferred the lace top or the faux leather pants, and you say both because, quoting yourself, more is always more, which then leads to a reflection on the aleatory effects of impulsive decisions, to which you reply that aleatory adventures require more than simply bearing witness, which is a rash thing to say. And then you can't forget that lightning bolt over the breast in the form of the stems of flowers, or the pattern on the calf, only half glimpsed through tights, or the possibility of a missed chance to be not cautious for once in your life. And then she chases the seductive light of melancholy like a classic ex-poet. Classically trained for the pithy abstractions, the obscure sensualities, or should I say the tensile possibles of a Cinereus paging through thesauruses. So you can be introduced at parties as enigmatically forlorn or ferociously far out. This is S, she is an ex-poet. And then what? Oh, diligent creature. Plotting is my mind's TV. Now, if we don't all dream of flamingos tonight, you see, I remember some lines. Sometimes collage is just what you had wanted to say, but in a better order. I'm into serendipity. Someone only needs to say they like antique furniture, and I know it's a sign. Thank you for the language, my friends. I remain forever in your delightful debt. Signed, S, plus all the usual sobriquets, smooches, roses, ilang, ilang. Once you're committed to humour, is that your bloody needlework? Why don't we start with something solid, like a reference to authority? There's only so much a citation can accomplish. To extemporize means to drop the common polish. You flush the context for the suitable and even-headed and question the fetching voices for good measure. Okay, here we go. 3 princes arrive in a foreign country. It's like the beginning of a joke, but it's not. As soon as they arrive, they find clues that would help them identify a certain flamingo they've never seen but might find, should they so desire. They do desire it. The clues add up to this image. A one-heeled flamingo that hops on one foot, is almost completely blind, has a dent in its beak, and carries on one wing a magician's hat, on the other a ram. The flamingo is lost, to be clear, so the princes find themselves suddenly suspected of having stolen the flamingo, given their exacting description. Promptly and primarily out of boredom, the king sends for the princes and meets them in his illustrious interrogation chamber. Not being accomplished in the skills of deduction, the king is befuddled as to how the princes added up 1 and 2. And wants to ban them from his kingdom, or better still, make them spin masters of public relations and actuarial accessories. The princes, being promoters of free education and the abolition of discounted economicals and unwaged vagaries, explain their magic wisdom, because the king only understands this to be magic rather than intellectualism. Fine, think the princes, we are into magic after all. Who cares if we lie, and all our intellectual endeavours will now be read as humbug if it gets us out of this pretty pickle. At this, the choric joggers squeak, pretty pickle in delegated delight. Meanwhile, the audience is getting impatient with the story. My ladies, could you please stop whispering? The white noise is really killing the atmosphere. We're trying to watch this young spaniel dance. If this was some kind of recital, we could all look at impy images and imitate them, puppies rolling and falling all over one another, but it would have been done already, like most things. All this running around is really getting quite tedious. So much effort just for the sake of a debonair allegory. What running? The rhetorical rumba ends with the three women organizing themselves in front of the three panels like statues on plinths. They may also be on actual plinths. Here's to being delicate, to being delicate. And being young and delicate is to be not so delicate in actuality, only in appearance, as interpreted liberally, as in stealing liberally from letters and lithographs, and leveling and lolloping is to ride the sound wave for your pure pleasure. So what? Or rather, what's that? As they say, a delicacy of delusion is a delusion of delicate proof, or maybe feet. Her feet, at any rate, are rather diplomatic. She dwells in the gracefulness of direction, in the soul of softest escape, most supple accounts, and maybe sacrifices, willingly serving her speech. It has to hurt. None of us want to strike. Hot-tongued mother of my little litter, your encomium in this manner is courageously stubborn, outrageously flabby. Indeed, I cannot, I shall not accept this arrangement or derangement of phrases. I do not permit it. As the room heats up, the swooping babes do not exactly stoop. They step on the spoken on. They speak on the praises, but step not on eros. They tread on age, as something non-existent, on time. Two, how do I become energetic? Mental gymnastics, discipline and desire, or speech over dessert? Whenever I want someone, I can put a bolt on modesty, let down the golden hair, etc., the voracious yardstick. In fact, I'll ferret with my fingernails until coincidence is no longer the author of my footfalls. Write treatises, declarations of our rubbing words together like the most honest intellectuals. Ha! I'm not making fun of you, you having possibly found the exact same thing in your heart, that perfectly harmless thing, which is entirely outside yourself. Oh dear, now I've got myself into a bit of a puddle. Once you let the Mozart crowd in, you're in it, in for it. You know I can go on and on about my traumatic musicality. I perfectly glow when we go down together in the enchantment of silly songs of the unfree. You run, and when you get there, it's like language takes years to form on your lips, but it's only a split second. This common time warp felt as zoop. Nothing you can do about that. Or maybe it's actually a half-hour walk, give or take, and someone says, hey, this is Byron's pool, where Lord Byron swam as a student. And there's an experience for you right there, in the imagination of a connection with history. But you want to own it, so you burst the stillness and read a poem about Argentina or tree canopies, and you plan all this in your head before it happens. I write this so it doesn't have to happen exactly as I planned it. You said if it's important, you'll remember. You said if there's one word to describe you, it's intensity. I agree, but what a figure thinks can only be so audible after all that concentrated landscape around it. Dazzling colours. And yours, what are you drizzling on the bed there? Essential oils? Dab some on your temples too, won't you? Can there be grace in telling a story you don't believe in? I say something that would make me blush should anyone think I actually felt and meant it. But this is the beauty of the theatre of our common despair, our trifling linguistic vanities. So I ask myself, how much can you deny yourself the pleasure? Confusion is a rich dessert. I am almost another person. I go to the old masters and I match their form. Needless to say, by amplifying abstraction, I have made it entirely empirical, as if reality could be turned into a play. I can't take on your fluff issues. I have my own fluff issues. The treadmill of character formation speeds up, and the shapes and names transform themselves in full regalia. The grasping of a well-paced, utterly unplanned conjunction of bodily lines. Explosions of flashbacks render the most ordinary moments spectacular in the bifurcation of comedic and tragic figures who in an exquisite aberration of otherworld movements irrationally cut or scramble into action, creating a crystalline image in which time is neither determined by duration nor by the powers of the false that resonate with the traces of the vicissitudes of life and love in pockets of avoidant attachment. The supersession of calls to action. The world amplifies itself further. Such dramatizations can occupy you. Such public engagement can reassert the simple model of objectivity and measurability. The runners chime, objectivity, objectivity, objectivity. The reverie is interrupted by the sound of the running machines, which is the sound made by constant tasks, the sound of hierarchized intention, of painted offspring, while closure is vamping up the raison d'etat of love, making dimples in the doorway, which is also the sound of what is held between, of connaissance, of waking from sleeping with legends and charts. The definition of beauty's routine diversion is, after all, its coquetry in recognized form. By this point, the stage too has experienced a transformation. Blown up or lip-lined into a vast veranda swing, or maybe a prosodic fantasy for singing darlings to sleep, that is, into an unlikely octave. The women are daring doyens after all, and every great speech needs a tea break for moistening lips, which can't be held open too long. That would be a tease, wouldn't it? Which sometimes is the point. To repeat. The stage has become a sublime cloud of hormonal mesh, a sound wavy netting. Maybe we hear clicking, maybe a rustling of recorded matter, of unplanned chronicles, maybe of breath. Are the runners fatigued, or is their shattering a poiesis? Doesn't everyone want that? What are they debating, if not the unideal sphere of a sonnet, its sublime lodging? Let's hear some more of the inadvertent songs. Let's swim in notes, eat grapes. Thank you.
So you know what you got to do now, everyone, is you need to go to Earthbound, and we put the link in the chat, and you need to get Sophie's chapbook as well. That was extraordinary and really, really great. Thank you so much. I also messed up the order a little bit, so I'm really sorry. So thanks everyone for being patient with me. Nisha will be our penultimate reader now. Nisha Ramayya's first book, State of the Body, Produced by Love, came out with Ignota Books, last year, and she teaches creative writing at Queen Mary University of London. Please take it away, Nisha.
Thank you, Azad, and thanks, Kashif, for putting on this amazing event. This has been the best reading, and I feel tingled and perturbed in the best way possible on the irritating archivist scale of things. And I'm so thrilled to be here, and I cannot wait for James Goodwin. I'm gonna read a poem that I wrote last winter to start with. I think I'll probably only read 3 or 4. And I'm kind of wanted to read it because I wrote it last winter, which now just feels so many lifetimes away. And I kind of think it's completely irrelevant now, and maybe even inappropriate. But I thought this might be the only chance I get to read it. And also, I wrote it after like two kind of special events. One of them was seeing Don Miche and Kim Hee-soon read together at the National Poetry Library, both of whom I just love so much. And the other event was reading with Bhanu at the Serpentine, at like a poetry event that I will not forget. So a winter poem from last year. Begin and end with a question. Do you want to exist ad infinitum on the borders between life and death? If you can find a massive pomegranate, thumb its ruby eyeballs, skin its white skin, direct its rosy fingers all the way down your forearms to the tips of your elbows, then anoint your knees, your legs, your feet. Now you are become pomegranate, sticky key to the underworld for as long as you don't shower. Release the synthetically colored jelly worms from your paunch's fairy pouch. Don't let your jitters slither when they go-go. Discharge those party poppers. B asks, do you have the courage to be less beautiful than you actually are? A question for poetry. Draw stars in purple glitter on the faces that you see and then don't see in the mirror. Don't shower. C counsels you to ask yourself, how can I give that which I want to cultivate? Choose the metaphors that suit and support your life, your cycles, your intentions. Let your love come out in tears, immersing your eyelashes in the great salty link. Sow what remains of your wishes in potting mix, neglect them tenderly. It is said, there's many a slip twixt the cup and the lip. Hold onto your Sports Direct mug-sized mug with both hands. If you plan to make a sacrifice for the sake of others, consider the desire not to sacrifice less than others and whether that can or should be harvested. What will they eat when you are bloodless? Nap indoors in the greasiest slice of sunlight. Tickle your interior extremities until all your kittens are purring concurrently. When is seeding burying? When is lying fallow death? Build a studio under your tombstone. Descend the ladder from your coffin to your artist's life. Down there, houseplants are strung with noses. Lusty robots stand by in clouds and cracked toilets explode. Renovate as you are like. You are safe and warm and safe and warm. You have access to clean running water. H says and D translates. I write poetry in the language of the inner organs, things that splatter out of nostrils, erasing the language of men. Splatter your New Year's resolutions, divine the starry night of your handkerchief. Play the first 5 seconds of Shri Ganeshe Namaha on repeat until the universe is an oscillating harp string, until the harp string snaps. And then I wanted to read two that are two poems for the Ahmad Jamal Trio at the Pershing, that album from 1958. And it's another winter memory. In 2015, I was at a seminar with Fred Moten in Paris, and he played this album on his laptop. And again, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. But not for me. Ahmad Jamal piano. A marble staircase ascends from seagull wings. Inclement seas of teeth throw up a line. So brief, no time to think before being spooned into the standards. They're moving messengers, the line escalating into just goodness, just warmth, just love, where you really want to go, where you must. It's a question of a repertoire of getting in tune with the surroundings. Separate tranquility from illusion, receive that contribution, that perfumed oil of accidentals. How is this melody held in strinkling, this story told in gazillions of tickles? His discipline, his constant discourse, making something out of something, discovering what's already been created so precious, anchored in the air, in the unreal, real experiment. That's the real, unreal piece. His extensions pouring the vessels of our bodies and rooms. Unburdened by the necessity of survival, eye-catching piece of patchwork continuum. But vamp this accompaniment with empathy and assemblage of stored breath. There he goes, there he goes, there he goes, oh, living music. And then the next one is kind of remixed with Asata Shakur, and on the drums is Vernel Fourier. You describe your grandmother's dream, some spa, women who struggle and tend spectrum, some spa, who don't know what freedoms mean, and ma plush, hopes unmurdered, murder impossibility, ma plush, you remember hope as better living, hum cha, what's for you won't let you get used to it, hum cha, rainbow fingers spreading out the distance, lap la, where wicked expropriation walks freely, lap la, fictive judge sees a prehistoric response, ba spit, based on the unnatural separation of soup, im dot, understood as our genetic characteristics, dub chi, by the tentacled extraterrestrial engineers, fill off, you name yourself opposer of opposition, da shop, Oksha, duty bound in beauty to the line Van Seramos, yumsop, horal, bopfla, all joy, lush up, nup one. But not for me, this time remixed with Halaj, and on the double bass, Israel Crosby. They're writing songs of love, but love's only, united in the thing itself, not like you and your body, but for life's curves, life's arabesque, accumulation of chains. He walks in desire, his only truth, a doxography onto himself. He walks in words, divinely inscribed. He recites his truth, guts spilling onto sand in the melismatic form of his name. Letters braiding, dramatic events braiding, witnesses his name, having begun well, ends badly. The formula sealed with a bloody kiss, where his ipseity couldn't keep quiet, his loud love, his union in me, although I can't dismiss the interiority of my dwelling, fingering the line to open up a space inside filled with boiling soup, well-told anecdotes, rosewater memories of birds, long-flung lapidation alchemied by art. Stones become birds, become ripples where roses mark. The scatter of his ashes in the Tigris, tradition denuded by magic. Well done in public, rationality counterpoised with miraculous critique, with love to lead the way. Let me be lost, unlike the truths which I haven't known, beauty, ecstasy, stars, the beautiful shadows face in markets, libraries, public gardens, the homes of booksellers. His profound mortification teaches me that I'm a bad friend to my body and no good thief. The only truth robs one from oneself. The only truth patched together by detractors. Oh, cotton wool carder of consciousnesses. Oh, surrenderer. Oh, discerning. Oh, dazed. Oh, comb out my shyness, my stained hearts. Oh, correspond with me. By each of my names, walk until you arrive in the primordial dialogue. Clear audience making your mouth froth. Yellow grapes, pistachios, wasp attracting dates of historical continuity, of breath, pierced bodies sweetly stung for social purposes. Conversion of harm to gracious identification beyond race. Believers finding themselves in communities of love, supreme of love, declaimed in ideas, in patterns, in law, remembered, recomposed, the struggle for words into suscepted and set, twangling in air and open forums.
Thanks, Nisha. That was really great. That was so textured and just really grounding, but also made me think of like past winters as well, and like oddly nostalgic for them now in some way, which was really great. Thank you. We are now about to hear from the second of 8 books that we want to publish next year. By another legend. James Goodwin is a poet doing a PhD in English and Humanities at Birkbeck, the University of London, with a thesis on the black sociopetics of marronage, breath, sacrality, and emanation. His pamphlet, Aspects Caught in the Headspace We're In, Composition for Friends, was published by Face Press, and his debut book, dun dun dun, Fleshed Out for All the Corners of the Slip, is forthcoming with the 87 Press. He serves on the editorial advisory board for the Journal of British and Irish Innovative Poetry. Take it away, James.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? Fantastic. This has been an extraordinary set of readings. The perfect round off to I guess another extraordinary year in a lot of wrong senses. But my reading, I guess, won't be too long. I'm going to read 2 poems from Aspects. One from my Earthbound poetry series pamphlet, and then a excuse me, and then a slightly longer poem which I wrote a couple of days ago. But the 3 poems preceding that I'm reading by way of a kind of build-up or preface to the last poem. Okay. One 1.3.1. When we're together, we get given mist and murk the point we think our states of height. Then the same eyes we get from deep sea nerves come run one up in and out of overdub. Flesh of our getaway gleans of what we wondered what over reflects, showing our living, small enough, hands on. One 1.3.3. Seasons of ancestral ravines spell their aerial rifts, chiming late ionization stars of felt from the bells of our fray. Irises flaring with our minds running on redoubt, pounding our seds and duns, running the river's better fares, garland drapes, lace on petal floor. One 1.4.4 Redshift. Call on redshift we give off. The world, an illusion of separation, withstood, outstood, the one polynomial along the riverbank we ensure from a greater distance than sound. Redshift like it was in our ears, constant presence of the alternative redshift without a gap. Can't see us condensate on the other side of disaster, no discovery. Dark shine it on our well of redshift, it gushed us under. Carousel, redshift. Look into redshift, beaming us cluster. Walk rolling still stretched out, still smoothing the image of where we cut black voicing. Shored against redshift, eliding all edging out velvet reach, flecting redshift's winter's porous departure. Our looking implacable, seeming fibrous. The corners calling, then unanswering to the rift, rioting aurific scree. Tuberose, sky high, without when redshift sunsets. Lake doubling in its counting off, cold lung, along natural, needing natural. Say if real, recognize real. Bird song, the skyline, raised in tonal. Alloyed vapor, freeing from the straining steel, your closely unheard jubilees. Cleaves shrieking a knot of cityscape jump beat. Up or out to your unrecursive collision. Again, I enfolding aeration's witness, witnessing what we say is our collapse and hiding in sync. Redshift snaring washed us over, we could opal beam the end of the night. Lose the clamour some friends generate. Slip a lack of passage together. A meeting of our earliest moments singing softly to me. Nothing safer than these moments drifting its synthetic trace of yard in my early head encased in windsweep. Cadence talking to you is talking through you without losing you to listen as they band. Effervescent meaning here, the nocturne's redshift, we could feel our cold air distilling. Forgotten heat, we gave up spooling, thinking they are lost when they are getting beaten. yet we know is always resisting powers blowing out down. Slow the duppies shroud in neon high street octaves, outslowing redshift's black brass solemnity, remaining more caught by diasporic moonlight fray and parting behind who we are, appearing iridescent when we look at the clouds at night. Like jet stream is how we redshift at a distance, like large pearlescence. We can go through the planet, having never moved, just light from all directions there, not to remind, to re-enter. Meld convex beaching is our insubstantial pivot. We thought we had a foothold in the redshift's own touch of what we want smelling sweet. Chai after ugali and cabbage, at the same time earth no longer ceded to its ground or our in-between, where we might have thought our feeling odorless from too much emission, but instead splits from given ex sensual. Unknowable ear and knuckle seen through the volatile in our fleeting after we spoke of them, yet sounds the shine cresting the blackest runaways that could be telling us the redshift of something sunk back in steel glow I was in no way to stroke, waving warped, more and more screaming their phase transitions in tunneling redshift oral and aura. How I want to feel already alive, clasping the slip of some of your other long connected ruin, still retaliating, oversubscribed, kicked across maximum barring at top, dissension to stone projects, down, but everywhere redshift hint. Curved and curving the timeline, black redshift, carouseling, some indifferent, detained, polluted, in clowning around ethereal, making good trim out of side cuts and borders. Zones magenta, mnemonically redshift, where we missed above. Seen us almost resounding, some mucky phono-optic, who is it? Whose is it, blue murder in a cry's inhabitants, come us redshift, we could go on into old night, showing what we hear, cordoning in new concave in place of their essence. They gift send the medium of stars redshift back and back before, when none of us still could step the piers preeing what looks lovely, but futurition here, ruggish blank believing, scratching around to find worlds to make of mystic eyes, real silencing redshift. It's taking time so late with the elements, metered homelessly, tenoring sickness to our shit in its absence of back and forth, still knowing of our truly unaccustomed redshifting under dark deck of dub plate we got to survive without wanting to think redshift asymmetry of feeling their make-believe. Your carousel limbs left moving us to white label classics with respect, conjecturing interstitial flight we could redshift idiomatic. 144 in it, unrelated to what I or you didn't see as quickening offshoot of ice inspirited inside the wrist, because inexpressibly full with what words can do to time now, tinted dim. Redshift, intimating all decreative weight, tidal fanning out without no dispelling, planetary oceanic, not knowing, not to main, and hearing the immaculate weave from redshift, nothing like redshift. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. Yeah, that was really great. Thank you. Perfect way to end a really glorious evening. Feel free to unmute yourselves and clap and roar for the 8 poets that have given their time and their energy to welcome you into this space. Woo! 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 Moo! I like this, the mooing. Great. Thank you all for being here. It's really been a pleasure. We can hang around for a bit if you'd like. Please do spread the word and donate. I'm really pleased to say that we've got £4,000, £4,010 in about 36 hours, which is insane. We have to get to 65 to make this work. It's a kind of all or nothing thing. So we still have a mountain to climb, but this is an incredible start. So share widely, dig up those rich relatives, just find them. We got to do it. Or just donate a tenner. Every little helps. And thank you so much to everyone who's donated, even people who have donated during this reading. Has been really, really great.